The night was heavy with rain, the kind that blurred streetlights into hazy halos and left the asphalt glistening like black glass. It was close to midnight on the outskirts of Montgomery, Alabama. Most of the city slept, but for one woman, the night was just beginning. Captain Maya Harris, a decorated Navy intelligence officer, guided her dark sedan through the near-empty highway. She wasn't in uniform, just a gray hoodie and jeans, but there was no hiding the way she carried herself. Alert, precise, every move measured. She tapped the steering wheel in rhythm with a soft blues track playing low on the radio. Her thoughts drifted to her family, her mother waiting at home, her younger brother she hadn't seen in weeks. She wanted nothing more than to get home, kick off her boots, and rest. But then the glow of red and blue lights erupted in her rearview mirror. Her jaw tightened, not fear, not even surprise. Just the weary recognition of a moment she'd been warned about, even trained for, a late-night traffic stop on a lonely stretch of road where the balance of power tilted with the flip of a siren. She slowed, signaled, and eased onto the shoulder. The rain pattered harder against the roof of her car. She placed both hands firmly on the steering wheel, knuckles white, her breath steady. Behind her, a police cruiser rolled to a stop. The driver's side door swung open, and out stepped a man whose posture screamed entitlement long before his boots hit the wet pavement. Officer Blake McCormick, broad-shouldered, mid-40s, the kind of man who believed the badge on his chest granted him immunity from consequence. His flashlight cut through the rain, slicing across Maya's windshield before landing directly on her face. He didn't introduce himself. He didn't explain the stop. His first words dripped with authority, sharpened into arrogance. "License and registration." Maya glanced at him through her side mirror. His nameplate gleamed under the beam. "McCormick." "Good evening, officer," she said calmly, reaching for her glove compartment. "Was I speeding?" McCormick didn't answer. He snatched the documents from her hand with a grunt. His flashlight swept lazily over her car. "Tail lights out," he muttered. Maya frowned. "That can't be right. I had it serviced last week." McCormick's head snapped toward her. His voice hardened. "You arguing with me?" That pause in the air, thick, heavy. Maya recognized it instantly. It was the silent test. Would she comply or would she resist? She'd seen the tactic before. Overseas interrogations dressed in different uniforms but wielding the same intimidation. "I'm not arguing," Maya said evenly. "Just pointing out that I had it checked." McCormick's lips curled into a smirk. "Step out of the car," she blinked at him. "For what reason?" His smirk deepened, crueler now. "Because I said so." The words were a gauntlet thrown at her feet. She took a slow breath, unbuckled her seatbelt, and opened the door. The rain was colder than she expected, soaking into her hoodie as she stood on the shoulder. McCormick loomed closer, circling her like a predator taking measure of its prey. "Turn around. Hands on the car," he barked. "For what reason?" she repeated, her tone steady. "You resisting?" His voice rose, sharp enough to pierce the roar of passing rain. Maya didn't flinch. "No, I'm asking a question." His jaw flexed. He tapped his radio. "Non-compliant driver," he muttered into it, then reached for his handcuffs. "You're under arrest." Maya instinctively stepped back. "Under arrest? For what?" "Obstructing an officer." His grin was back, smug and self-satisfied, as if the words themselves gave him untouchable power. In that instant, Maya had two options: escalate or endure. She'd seen too many people's lives ended on the roadside because of men like McCormick. She wasn't going to be another headline. With deliberate calm, she placed her palms on the cold, wet roof of her car. McCormick yanked her arms behind her back, cinching the cuffs so tight they cut into her wrists. She winced, but said nothing. "Don't worry," he muttered, shoving her toward his cruiser. "You'll learn some respect where you're going." But McCormick had no idea who he had just put in his back seat. The plastic seat was unforgiving, pressing into her spine as rain streaked the cruiser's windows. Maya stared at her reflection in the glass partition, calm, composed. But beneath it all, a fire burned. McCormick slid into the driver's seat, whistling like this was just another notch in his belt. "Most folks know better than to question." "Me," he said, pulling back onto the road. "You? You just don't know when to shut up." Maya's eyes didn't leave the reflection of his in the glass. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "Or maybe you're used to people being too scared to push back." That shut him up for a beat. His grip on the wheel tightened. His jaw twitched. He masked it with a laugh. "Lady, you must think you're somebody." "I don't think," she replied. "I know." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick with tension. Two wills colliding in the confined space of a patrol car. At the station, The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as McCormick led her through the booking process. The officers on duty barely glanced up. Fingerprints, mugshot, papers shuffled without interest. Maya moved through it all with quiet dignity, but she saw it clearly. The indifference that let men like McCormick thrive. The silence of those who looked away rather than question. As the cell door clanged shut behind her, she sank onto the cold metal bench, her wrists still raw from the cuffs. McCormick leaned against the bars, his smirk plastered back into place. "You know," he drawled, "this didn't have to happen. All you had to do was play along." Maya met his gaze, unwavering. "I'm exactly where I need to be." For the first time, the smirk faltered, just for a second, because deep down, he felt it, the shift he couldn't name, the storm that was coming. And Maya, she knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. "Do you think Officer McCormick was targeting Maya because he thought she'd be powerless to fight back? Comment what you think." The next morning, sunlight broke through the clouds, casting Montgomery in a golden glow that felt almost ironic. Inside the courthouse, though, the atmosphere was anything but warm. Captain Maya Harris, still in the same gray hoodie from the night before, was led into the courtroom in handcuffs. Her wrists were red, her eyes steady. Every camera in the room swung toward her. Reporters had caught wind of the arrest. A decorated Navy officer, arrested by a cop with a history of aggressive stops. The story was already spreading like wildfire. Officer McCormick, meanwhile, strutted in as if he owned the place. His uniform pressed, badge gleaming, chin lifted with arrogance. He sat at the prosecution's table, whispering something smug to the district attorney, who nodded without question. The judge, Harold Winslow, a man with deep lines etched into his forehead and the reputation of a stickler for procedure, entered. He adjusted his glasses, surveyed the room, and then said flatly, "Let's begin." The prosecutor wasted no time. He stood, voice confident, and painted Maya as combative, uncooperative, even dangerous. "Your Honor, the defendant refused lawful instructions, argued aggressively, and resisted arrest. Officer McCormick was left with no choice but to detain her for the safety of himself and the public." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. Some nodded, buying the story. Others shifted uneasily. Maya's attorney, a sharp young woman named Renee Porter, rose to her feet. She wasn't intimidated by the theatrics. She spoke with calm precision, each word slicing through the prosecutor's exaggerations. "Your Honor, Captain Harris has spent 15 years serving this country with honor. She holds top security clearance, and her record is impeccable. What happened last night was not an officer ensuring public safety. It was an officer abusing authority. We will prove it." McCormick chuckled under his breath, shaking his head. To him, this was routine. He'd done it before, and he was sure he'd get away with it again. But Renee wasn't done. She turned, gesturing toward Maya. "And the evidence, Your Honor, begins with her integrity. Captain Harris did not resist. She asked questions any citizen has the right to ask." The judge leaned forward slightly, intrigued but cautious. And just when the courtroom seemed ready to side with McCormick, a revelation hit the room like a thunderclap. Renee walked toward the evidence table, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. She held up a small plastic bag containing a dashcam drive. Last night, Officer McCormick conveniently forgot to mention that his cruiser's dashcam was recording the entire incident. Gasps spread through the room. McCormick's face froze for the briefest second before he forced a smile. "Objection!" the prosecutor barked. "The defense can't—" But Judge Winslow raised a hand. "Overruled. Play the footage." The bailiff set up the monitor. The screen flickered, and there it was. The rain-slick highway, the flashing lights, Maya's calm voice asking, "Was I speeding?" Then McCormick's words, captured with crystal clarity, "Because I said so." The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, even a few muffled curses. McCormick shifted in his seat, his smug mask cracking. Maya's expression never changed. She sat still, steady, letting the truth play louder than any argument could. When the video ended, the silence was deafening. Judge Winslow removed his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "Officer McCormick, this does not look favorable." The officer straightened, feigning confidence. "Your Honor, sometimes videos don't capture the danger an officer feels," but Renee cut him off, sharp as a blade. "Danger?" The only thing Captain Harris was armed with was her voice. The crowd stirred again. By midday, it was clear the tide had shifted. Reporters scribbled furiously, their headlines already forming. "Dashcam exposes officer's abuse of power." McCormick's jaw clenched tighter with each passing minute. His carefully constructed persona was unraveling before his very eyes. And the one thing he feared most, accountability, was inching closer. But he wasn't finished yet. Men like McCormick rarely went down without dragging others with them. That afternoon, during cross-examination, McCormick tried to claw back control. Captain Harris was confrontational, he insisted. I had to assert authority. If I hadn't, she could have... Renee stepped forward. She could have what, officer? Asked another question. Looked at you the wrong way? His face reddened. She didn't follow orders. And when? Renee pressed. Did asking for what reason become a crime? The question hung in the air like a hammer waiting to fall. McCormick's mouth opened, then closed. No answer. Judge Winslow leaned back, his expression unreadable, but his eyes lingered on McCormick longer than before. As the day wound down, Maya sat quietly, observing. Her heart was steady, but her mind was racing. This wasn't just about her anymore. She could feel it in the weight of every camera, every whispered conversation. This was about every person who'd been silenced by power, unchecked. Renee leaned over, whispering, "We've got him cornered, but tomorrow we bring the hammer down." Maya nodded once. She knew the fight wasn't over. She also knew McCormick wouldn't go quietly, and she was right, because that evening, as the courthouse emptied, McCormick lingered behind, his eyes dark, his smile gone. In the shadowed hallway, he muttered to another officer, loud enough for a reporter to overhear, "They think one video's gonna bury me? I've got friends in high places. Tomorrow they'll regret pushing this." The words were scribbled down, leaked within the hour, and by nightfall, the city buzzed with one question. How deep did the corruption go? If you were in Maya's shoes, would you have stayed calm like she did, or pushed back harder? Let me know in the comments. The next morning, the courthouse buzzed like a hive. Something was different. The air itself felt charged, heavy with expectation. Everyone knew that if the dashcam footage had shaken the ground, what was coming next could topple the entire mountain. Maya Harris walked into the courtroom calm as ever, her posture straight, her eyes fixed forward. But beneath that calm, she was bracing herself. Because this wasn't just about her anymore. This was about exposing a system that had protected people like Officer McCormick for far too long. McCormick himself looked rattled. The smugness was gone, replaced with tight lips and darting eyes. His friends in high places hadn't shown up this morning, and for the first time he looked like a man standing alone. Judge Winslow cleared his throat. Court is now in session. Let's proceed. Renee, sharp and ready, stood first. She carried a folder, slim but heavy with weight. "Your Honor," she began, "yesterday we presented dashcam footage that revealed Officer McCormick's abuse of power. Today we submit evidence that this was not an isolated incident." The courtroom leaned forward. McCormick's jaw tightened. Renee pulled out documents, formal complaints, citizen statements, even internal memos. In the past 3 years alone, Officer McCormick has been the subject of 12 complaints, all mysteriously dismissed, all buried. The prosecutor leapt to his feet. "Objection. Irrelevant." But the judge wasn't convinced. "Overruled. Continue." Renee laid the pages out like daggers on the table. "Each complaint tells a story, Your Honor. Intimidation, harassment, excessive force, and each time swept under the rug. Why? Because Officer McCormick knew the system would protect him. Until now." Gasps filled the gallery. Cameras clicked like machine guns. McCormick's face flushed red, his hand tightening into a fist on the table. For the first time, he looked dangerous, not powerful, but cornered. The judge turned his gaze to McCormick. "Do you have an explanation for this pattern of behavior?" McCormick shot to his feet. His voice cracked as he barked, "They're lying, all of them. People like her," he jabbed a finger at Maya, "think they can challenge me, humiliate me. I won't be made the villain here." The room erupted. Shouts, gasps, chaos. The judge slammed his gavel. "Order! Order!" But it was too late. McCormick had revealed his true face. The mask was gone, and what lay beneath was uglier than anyone imagined. Maya sat still, her calm composure the perfect contrast to his unraveling fury. She didn't need to say a word. The truth had spoken for itself. By afternoon, the courtroom felt transformed. The prosecutor looked deflated, scrambling to salvage a case that had collapsed around him. Reporters outside were already calling it the trial that exposed Montgomery. Judge Winslow, his voice stern, delivered the blow. "This court finds that the arrest of Captain Harris was unlawful, and the charges are dismissed in their entirety. Furthermore, given the disturbing pattern of misconduct, I am recommending an immediate internal investigation into Officer McCormick's actions." The gavel struck. Bang! Case closed. The gallery erupted. Some cheered, some wept, some simply sat in shock. Renee squeezed Maya's shoulder, whispering, "We did it." Maya didn't smile. Not yet. She knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something bigger. When Maya stepped out onto the courthouse steps, the crowd waiting outside roared. Reporters swarmed. Microphones thrust forward. "Captain Harris, How does it feel to be free? Do you think justice was served today? What message do you have for others who've faced abuse like this? Maya raised a hand, her voice steady, carrying over the noise. This isn't about me. This is about every person who's ever been silenced, mistreated, or told their voice doesn't matter. Today, we proved that it does matter. But the fight isn't over. Not until every system that protects abuse instead of people is changed. The crowd cheered louder, their voices echoing down the courthouse steps like thunder. And what of Officer McCormick? In the days that followed, the investigation deepened. His past cases were reopened. Former victims stepped forward, emboldened by Maya's courage. His friends in high places began to distance themselves, unwilling to sync with him. Eventually, McCormick was suspended, then indicted. The man who once strutted with arrogance now faced the same system he had once twisted to his will. And as his mugshot flashed across the evening news, people didn't see a hero in uniform. They saw the truth. A bully finally stripped of power. For Maya, it wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming her dignity and showing others that even in the face of intimidation, truth has power. She returned to her Navy duties with her head high, but something inside her had shifted. She'd faced injustice and refused to be broken. And in doing so, she lit a spark that spread far beyond herself. This story isn't just about one officer or one courtroom. It's about something bigger. The reminder that power unchecked is dangerous. But courage to speak, to stand, to fight back is contagious. Sometimes it only takes one person saying no more to inspire countless others to do the same. Do you think the prosecutor should face consequences for ignoring McCormick's past complaints? Drop your thoughts below. If this story moved you, make sure to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more powerful true stories like this. And remember, your voice matters. Don't let anyone take it from you.